So this week's tip, I would like to show you how I went about creating this photograph in Lightroom CC. This is a really cool trick if you want to create some really nice Christmas cards for the holiday that's coming up. So to get started, I want to show you the settings I use for this. I want to tell you kind of how I went about capturing this photograph, and then I'll go ahead and take you through the steps on how to edit this out. So this was early in the morning in the past winter, and we had a big snowstorm come through. Right after the storm broke, I ended up heading out, and I wanted to try to capture the blue hour. A good trick that I learned is coming out early in the morning is the fact that nobody is around. The streets were empty, nobody was walking. It's basically this place I had it to myself, it felt like. So setting up the tripod here, I did some test shots, and I finally came up with these settings that seem to work really good for this photo. So let's go ahead and show you what those are. So I finally settled on 13 seconds. I took my aperture at 7.1. For those of you who have watched some of my past videos, you know I never try to go below 7.1 when it comes to these types of photographs, because once you do drop it below that aperture of 7.1, that's when the sharpness and details start to fade off a little bit. And then ISO 100 seemed to work pretty good. So a lot of times I'll start with ISO 400 and maybe use a little less time, and then I'll just kind of slowly adjust the ISO and my seconds. I kind of go back and forth, but I never touch the aperture. So it's a good way of doing some test shots, kind of figure out where you need to be. And I was using my 16mm Tokitna lens. Now these kind of photographs you can actually take with your kit lens that comes with your camera a lot of times. So what I'll do with a kit lens, if I was shooting this, I'll go ahead and use the autofocus. And then once I do have the focus in, I'll switch that switch over to manual. And I also make sure I always shoot in RAW format, because that does help me out when it comes to doing post-production. Okay, let me just kind of show you the before and after here. So this is the raw photograph I took. You know, it's kind of more flat, doesn't have a lot of really cool look as the one on the right here. So what I want to do is we're going to hit the reset button, and we're going to start from scratch on this one. Okay, starting from scratch, first thing I want to do is take my highlights down. So I'm going to kind of slowly crank these down to -100 for this particular photograph, and I want to take the shadows up to about 55. Now the whites and the blacks, a lot of times I'll hold my option key down on my Mac, which is your alt key on Windows, and then I'll click on the whites. I'll slowly bring it to the right here, just to kind of get them to pop a little bit, and then once I see them popping through, I'll kind of bring it back just a little. Same thing with the blacks. I'll just kind of click on it, and I'm holding down the option key and just come to the left a little bit. And as you can see already, it's starting to bring a little more detail out. Scrolling down, we have clarity, dehaze, vibrance, and saturation. So on this one, I want to make it a little softer look for the Christmas cards. So I'm going to take the clarity down a little bit, and I'm going to play with it. So I'm thinking about -25 for the clarity, kind of gives it a nice soft look. Dehaze, I'll actually crank the dehaze up to about 5 or 6, seems to work pretty good. Now vibrance and saturation, I'll just bump these up just a little bit, try to get a little more color. Now the one thing I'm not liking is how yellow these two lights are, so what I'm going to do, come down under the HSL and color tab. So if you just click that little tab there, and we want to make sure you're under saturation, I'm going to come over here and click the yellow and bring it down to just try to make the picture pop a little better, trying to balance the colors. And then a couple of these other ones, I've adjusted the blues a little bit. I'll take that down, and I'm going to bump up the reds. So you could just kind of play with these a little bit and see what looks really good here. Now under split toning, this is a lot of times I'll play with this. So I'll take the saturation, I'm going to run it up to about a 5, and then right where it says hue, I'll just grab this tab and I'll roll it on across until it looks pretty good. So I think I'm going to keep it all the way to the right where it says 360. Okay, scrolling down where it says sharpening. I don't want to sharpen this picture too much just because I want to have it a softer look, so I'm not going to mess with that. But noise reduction, I will take the noise reduction up to about 30 or 29. 29-30 seems to work pretty good. Scrolling down under lens correction, biggest thing I want to do here is I want to enable profile corrections, because I was using a wide angle lens, which was the Tokitna. So if you see, when I click on it, it does flatten the picture out just a little bit. And then the big one I want to do, the wide angle does distort a lot of stuff here, and the transform tab here, when you click on that, this one works actually pretty slick. And a lot of times I can get away with just using auto. So let me click that, see how it does. And as you can see, it made the picture kind of level out, made the building a lot more flatter. So just to show you the difference here, that one's off and this is on auto. Now here's the real good trick for really giving a cool Christmas effect. Under the Effects tab here, so if you just click Effects and highlight Priority, you want to make sure you're on that one. What we're going to do is under the amount, we're going to increase it, and I'm going to slowly bring it up. So just to show you in an extreme sense, if you take this way up, you can see it creates this pretty cool effect here. You can take it back, that's the dark side, but I want to have this more Christmassy, so I'm going to have a little white. And I'm just going to barely keep that on there, just so there's just a slight haze or a slight white border going around. Kind of really gives it a cool, soft, Christmassy feel to it. Okay, the very last thing I'm going to do is come right up here to the Radial Filter, click on it. Once again, I'm going to hold my Option key down. So when you click on your Option or Alt key on a PC, you'll see where it says Effects. When you click on it, it'll say Reset, so let's reset that. I'm going to go ahead and take the exposure up to, say, about 25. I'm going to click, I'm going to make a circle here. And I can kind of click and line it up to where I want it. So I'm just trying to do is get the person's attention just kind of looking right down the street. And then once again, I'll just adjust the brightness here a little bit. And then I can actually take the clarity up or down right here. So I'm going to bring the clarity down just even a little bit more, just to give even a softer look. Once I feel pretty good about that, I'll just hit done. Okay, so now this is actually ready to export to where I can send it in to a company where they can make up some really cool Christmas cards. Well, I hope this helped you out. If it did, definitely subscribe. I got some really cool videos coming down the pipeline. Also, check out my Facebook and Instagram if you haven't followed those yet. And we'll catch you guys on the next video. You guys have yourself a really good one.